There we go. Okay, we're recording now.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. This is Sandra. The last time we spoke about the breathing
Yes,
exercise on how to breathe. Well,
yes,
I was too sick that day to even say anything. I usually breathe like the wrong way, right? But last night I went over the notes, so I did it on the bed, and then I got up and I did it. And then this morning I went walking
yes,
and I did it. I'm usually a person who has, I'm not going to say I'm asthmatic because it's not as severe like it used to be, but
right.
my lungs, usually be like not, too healthy. Anyway, while I was walking this morning, I tried to do it. It was hard. It was very hard from the beginning, but I kept doing it. I stopped, then I do it, and then it feels good. I mean, and I actually now I'm breathing a little better. So I think it's the exercise from since I did it last night and I did it this morning. So, and I'm going to make sure I share it with my son. So thank you very much for
Well,
that
thank you.
exercise.
Oh, I mean, I'm very heartened because you practice lying down, you practice walking, and it definitely, I think, I believe, here comes another admitting. I believe that you missed the very beginning of the very first day because you had responsibilities, which
Yeah.
doesn't impede at all that but I didn't know if you saw the part where I talked about when the breathing and the lung capacity, when we
Yes,
shallow
I
breathe, we
did.
only use 25% of our lungs. When you deep breathe, you use, so, and of course, in the video, when you show that when we have different challenges, it, instead we do the opposite to what we need to do. We start the stress response, our bodies think, anything in our body, we start to shallow breathe more to cope or to defend, and so that it actually intensifies the problem, does the opposite. So yes, and so of course your lungs are a muscle, so they start to open and expand, and it would be very helpful as well. So, and I really like the fact that you incorporated, and your also what you said was something that I think is very important for a point, is how fast the change actually occurs. You found it really difficult, but then you started feeling a change in just once or
Right.
twice. And so it's, we tend to, that's the great thing about this, because often when we're on
Yeah.
a learning curve, it's tough. Like it's really hard to get the feeling of change. You don't feel benefit right away or see a result. And that's why this is actually really teachable and people respond favorably in the general public, because once they try it, they actually feel a result pretty quickly. So, and that's results and rewards encourage us to keep trying. So it's not something where we have to wait this distance time to actually feel, so where people give up. And so thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And I hope that also, I mean, our sharing really helps each other because we learn. Anyone else? Question, thought, tried it, didn't try it?
Good morning, everyone.
Didn't think about it, didn't try it because it felt difficult. Anyone found it hard to incorporate or just?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hi, this is Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I am good.
You're a little low in terms of the volume. I don't know if that's so for everyone else. I actually have on my fan. You know what? I'm going to turn off my fan. Give me 1 second. Okay, that's better. I want to hear everyone better that way. Yes.
Yes, are you hearing me better now?
Yes, I am. And I turned off my fan, which I think will make a difference. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I just want to say that I have been incorporating the breathing into my daily. I am very conscious of it now. And I'm noticing I was in the garden over the weekend and I just feel less tired. It's like the breathing regulates what I'm doing, my muscles, my arms and everything. And I was just so conscious of it that I just wanted to work all day. And I said, no, the sun is getting hot, so I need to go in. But it somehow just helps your body to regulate better, breathing from the diaphragm. So I've just been noticing that and just deliberately try to breathe that way all the time.
That's wonderful. I mean, on so many levels. What I like about the two stories in particular is that I know, like when we were doing it, when you're here and you're spending a little more time, where then the reports will say they feel sleepy, they feel tired, and that's why when I point out that there's so many ways to use this, that it can have the exact opposite effect. If you're moving, if you're active, it doesn't make you feel sleepy. It actually can keep you more energized because your muscles are more relaxed, you're more, so that the oxygen is moving through your body, so your brain works better, you're more energized. So it's not just one or the other. You can use it to absolutely just stay still, relax, fall asleep, for instance, or you can use it when you're moving so that you get more oxygen to your body and your brain. And so it's just a well-rounded gift that we have in life. Yes, Jamelia, you raised your hand.
Hi, good morning. Good morning,
Morning.
everyone.
Morning.
So from this training so far, an interesting thing happened to me this weekend. I usually speak to my sister and ask her how she's doing and check in on her. She had an accident about 2 weeks ago, damaged her hand. And it's always I'm fine or it's healing, blah blah blah. And this weekend, this weekend when I spoke to her and I asked her, how she's doing, and I specifically said, "How are you doing mentally?" Because then through the training, I'm conscious that also, her mental health is affected with everything that's going on. The kids having to be home, she's dealing with this injury, etc., etc. And so, she's always saying she's fine because, she probably isn't processing on the physical, she's processing on the physical level. But, when you specifically say now, how are you doing? Like mentally, how are you feeling inside, emotionally, etc. And we had such a good discussion because now the question is more specific and it's not just about the injury, but it's more about what's going on with her inside. And so I don't think if we weren't going through this or this wasn't fresh in my head that I would have asked the question the way I did. So I just wanted to share that, from the training, that was an experience of mine over the weekend.
Oh, thank you, Shamelia. That's so wonderful because it's so important that we do shift our way of thinking in terms of mental health. And I like I said, in the first session, I do feel that one of the benefits of COVID is that mental health is so much more at the forefront of discussion, and the stigma, it appears to me to be lessened. People are less afraid to say they're struggling. People are less, it's more in the conversation, and it's more accepted that the people would be anxious, would be scared, there would be some threat. And instead of that being a problem, we're more inviting that conversation and not feeling we have to be so perfect or so on. And because that's just, I mean, for me, of course I'm biased, but mental health is the foundation of everything in our life. When we wake up in the morning, just getting out of bed, and I don't mean that we're depressed, just like, do I lie here? Oh, I have to get started my day, all the things I have to do. If we're going to exercise or not exercise, that's still all mental. I mean, if I don't want to do this, yes, go ahead and do it. All of that. So mental health isn't just about the challenges we're facing, but it's about staying positive, staying on point, just directing ourselves in life, being motivated. All those things are happening from a mental place for us. And so it's the way that we can support ourselves and also address ourselves. So that's fantastic in sharing. I mean, I'm very pleased to hear that So did anyone have any challenges that they wanted to explore and or mention in difficulty practicing it or thinking about it or incorporating it? And like I said, I really liked hearing how you were just to bring it into your day-to-day life. And so it was just that way, that it's just part of your life versus something you have to focus and think about in terms of, I have to lie here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And that's why I think it's so powerful, because a lot of times what gets in the way of our achieving results is of a time factor. I have to take out this time. I don't have the time. If we eliminate that barrier, then and we feel a positive result, then we're more motivated to integrate it, to expand or grow in it. So thank you. Anyone else want to share anything? Okay. So then I think we have most people here. Again, welcome all the ones who came a little bit later. You didn't really miss anything. We were just discussing their experience. Well, actually, everyone was sharing some of their experiences, but we haven't gotten into it. But of course, what they said was so important and so valuable. And thank you for sharing, because it was very, it's so helpful when we all come together as a partnership, and we're here in Zoom. So, so of course, everyone, happy Women's Day. We're celebrating women everywhere. And we're certainly worth celebrating. Again, biased, but I think we do so much, and it's so wonderful that we can have a global appreciation. And so it goes perfectly. I did not plan this myself, that our session would be on International Women's Day, but here we are celebrating and today's theme, it will be so much more about celebrating the self today. Self-love, self-kindness, all that good stuff is what we're going to be doing today. So it's in perfect keeping for International Women's Day. So in the workshop today, we're going to look at 3 different things. One, we're going to look at our emotional habits. I think and the reason we want to look at emotional habits is because we all have them. And they become, the thing about habits is they become quite unconscious. We just do them naturally. We don't think about them, and they become part of our personality, how we think, how we're processing information. And unless we step back and observe a habit, it just will run amok. It will run all by itself. We will think it's out of our control. So if I'm accustomed to being nice all the time, for instance, then it will be hard for me to take care of myself or stand up for myself. And that's just an example. So learning emotional habits, which we'll explore more, will help us become more aware about how we're functioning. And through that self-awareness, which is the second one, that self-awareness enables us. If we're not aware of something, we can't change something. And through that, learning about our emotional habits, becoming aware of them, we can learn how to better manage our triggers, which gives us a sense of more empowerment and control over our life. We often feel that we can't control our thoughts, our emotions, and we think that, especially, they're out of our control. If we are overly anxious, for instance, it gets to feeling that we can't control that emotion. It's coming out of nowhere. So we're going to explore that in much more detail in the session today. I'm just trying to move this. Sorry, oops, there we are. So let me move this screen up a little more. So I figured out how to poll. It was very simple, but on the spot, it was passed me by. So we're going to do our poll today. I'm happy that we can do it. We started the last time. So it was actually supposed to be day 2, but it serves us perfectly. So I can launch the poll. There we go. So you all see coming up on and for most of you, I think you may have done this. So what are the 3 stress responses? And you can just click on the one that you're identifying. So any more tickling on? Okay. Everyone there? So, okay, so 80% is the correct one. The fight, flight, and freeze are our stress responses. Those are our biological programming. The cool, calm, and collected are what we do to overcome stress. That would be our relaxation response. So that's that's where we what we want to achieve through these sessions, how we can manage stress in a different way. So yes, fight, flight, and freeze is what's part of our biological makeup. It's automatic and it happens just like that. So I think this is where I got confused. I ended the polling and then I go back to number. Now I figure out what I'm doing. I figured it out. Yay. So the imagination uses how many senses? So do we know our senses? Just so our senses are sight, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and touch. So smell, touch, sight, smell, and sound. Those are our 5 senses. So, okay, I see. Anyone else polling? So I think we're moving in the right direction. Yes. And the reason that's an important one is because the imagination, oftentimes when people associate the imagination, they see it as something visual. So it is 5 senses, all of our senses. Our vision, our sight, our smell, our taste, our hearing and touch. All of our senses are used for the imagination. And when we want to experience a change within ourselves, we can utilize our imagination. And it's a very, very powerful tool. It also helps to regulate our stress responses because it's where we put our mind to what we focus on. So if I imagine seeing a garden versus imagine seeing a dump, I'm going to have a different response feeling in my body. If I start thinking about all of these stressful thoughts and I'm thinking about them, I'm going to be seeing them in my mind, all my senses engaged, I'm going to elicit a stress response in my body. If I start imagining a field, I'm going to feel calmer because that's what I'm going to be focused on. So it's another way to bring down our stress responses. So breathing and imagination, 2 very powerful tools. Relaunch polling, cancel. So here so number 3. Oh, sorry, I'm still trying to end polling. And I go to number 3. There we are. Oh. Okay. Oh, I already gave it. I gave this away. Relaunch polling. Continue. Okay, there we go. I already gave this away. Hands, with eyes, ears, nose, mouth. We already did that one. So we move on to the next one. Touch, sight, sound, smell, taste. That's right. We just did that. Yep. So we know that one. And the next one. Okay. Launch polling. Oh, and polling. I did something funny here. There. The mind perceives what we vividly imagine as real. Is everyone polling? Do I need to relaunch the polling?
You need to relaunch.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. So the mind perceives what we vividly imagine as real. True. I just gave that one away already. Yes, that's very true. Thank you. And polling, share results. Oh, I didn't share the results over the other one. So there we go. You all guessed it. Continue. And the polling. There we go. think I'm still becoming adept at this. Your happy place can be somewhere outside of you. Share results. We have two. It's kind of worded a little ambiguous. So, well, it can be both actually, but our goal here, it's true, your happy place can be somewhere in the world. But what we really want our happy place to be is somewhere inside of us. So they're kind of both right, because what we want your specific happy place to be, what we want to gain from this is the happy place to be somewhere inside of you that we go to within ourselves. It can be an imagined place, or it can just be a feeling. So breathing can be a happy place within you. And because when we have something within us where it's a happy place, our positive place, our calm place, what we call our safe place within, then that is a huge protective factor. It's a huge support system, because we don't have to depend on something around us or someone else to make us feel positive or support us. We can find those resources within ourselves. And the more safety we can create from within ourselves, it's an incredible protective factor against stressors, because we can go to that place to find security, which is a lot of which we build up in these sessions. Launch polling, continue polling, and number 6. If you vividly imagine your, here we go, launch polling. If you vividly imagine your positive place, then it will feel real to you. Okay, so I'm going to share the results. So yes, the 89% correct. It is true. That's the power of the imagination. What we imagine, our body and mind does not know the difference between what we imagine and what is real. If I imagine eating a delicious mango and vividly imagine it, I will salivate as if I was actually eating it. We all know this happens when we're dreaming. If we're dreaming and you wake up and you dream that you're falling, you're going to feel like you're falling. Your heart will increase. So that's your imagination, and it's most evident during that time. So, and that's true awake as it is asleep. So if you think about your dreaming, when you're vividly, your imagination is at play, and obviously you're not physically falling, but you think you are. And if you're running in a dream and you wake up, you're going to feel all that running and your heart racing and those kind of things. If you have a nightmare, you know what that is like. So that's your imagination at play, to give you an example, but it's happening with you all the time. When you think of a past memory that's unpleasant, then, and you can feel as if you're back there, and you can feel the emotions, and that's why our mind is very, very powerful. Relaunch polling, continue. End polling, sorry. So sorry, this number 7, launch poll. When you are in fight, flight, or freeze, you are at your smartest and most reasonable. Okay. Share results. So yes, it is false. That's the fight, flight, and freeze, that part of your brain, which again is your oldest part of your brain. And it's the most basic. It's the first part of the brain that forms. It's formed in when you're in the womb. It starts forming then when you're born. So when you're pre-verbal, don't have your higher brain developed, you will have your lower brain. And so you don't need to have reason. And when your fight, flight, and freeze is kicking in, it simply is, again, the automatic response sends a message to your mind and body instantaneously to take action. So that, because you're not going to sit around and think about if something is coming to attack you. So it will cut off actually the areas of your brain that will reason, the stronger it gets. Continue. Oh, end poll. And 8. Our stress response is fight, flight, and freeze is most effective for long-term ongoing situations. Thanks, Sandra. You're okay. So you can take the poll. Our fight, flight, and freeze is most effective for long-term ongoing situations. Okay. So share results. Okay, so we have 75% is correct. It's actually not what we want to use during the long-term and ongoing situations, because then that's what gets us into a lot of trouble, because we stay stuck in either struggling, escaping, or disconnecting from the world. And so it doesn't help us if we're in a chronic situation of stress and say situation at work, and then we're going to always be fighting with the person or a relationship. We're always fighting with that person or the parties around. And certainly on an internal, or if you're in a chronic situation, you can't escape what's going to happen. You're going to just, again, turn to alcohol, turn to food, turn to something to try and feel better that's unhealthy. And you're always trying to escape rather than dealing with things, or you shut down, get depressed. And secondly, it's for long-term and ongoing situations on an internal level, it's particularly disastrous because you will end up struggling inside yourself, shutting down emotionally, which leads to depression, disconnected from the world. And if you're trying to escape, again, it leads to behaviors that can be very destructive because you're not dealing with them. Okay. End polling. And the next one. 9. The autonomic nervous system controls involuntary functions that are critical for survival. Launch polling, sorry. So this is your automatic, this is your nervous system that's functioning all the time. I might remind you, this is not about getting it right or getting it wrong. If you miss some of these key points, I just want to make sure that these were understood. And it's a lot to learn all in one go. So some points you might be missing them. So yes, they are critical for survival. They're your heart rate, and that's why I can't control my heart rate, but I can through breathing. Breathing is one of our autonomic nervous systems, part of it, and that's the only one of our autonomic nervous systems, the only one of them that we can actually control. We can, of course, control some of our systems through how we process information, our imagination. Again, I can slow down my heartbeat by thinking about a field versus thinking about an earthquake or trauma or a threatening event or COVID, for instance. So we can also impact our nervous system through how we process information. If I'm thinking positive versus thinking negative, yes, that will change, but I can't physically just go and change my heart rate, but I can physically change my breathing. So that's when I say it's the only of the autonomic nervous systems, the features or whatever they are, the only one that we can control is our breathing, but we can impact our nervous system by our behaviors, by our thoughts, by our emotions, just so that's clear. And end the polling for that and go to the next one. We're nearly last one and launch poll. The best way to breathe is through the rise and fall of our chest. Okay, I figured that one. You guys ended on a nice, easy note. So we've been through that one. Perfect. Okay, thank you all. I hope that was helpful. I thought it'd be really good to have a recap just so everyone to see that. And again, there's no getting it right or getting it wrong. I'm just happy to be able to illuminate different points because they give context. And when you're sharing it with others, when people understand this, it can help. I will say that I have encountered some resistances, which I might have mentioned to the breathing. There has been some associations that it's somehow dangerous and it's anti-spiritual, which I was quite surprised to hear, because of course breathing is just so biological, and that it was anti-Christian. I thought that was also I didn't realize that it would be some kind of threat when it's something physiological. And so I think that the more that we just understand why it's important and also how we're designed, which is, so who designed us? God designed us. So we're designed in this way that we have the power to support ourselves, but if we don't understand that or haven't learned those styles, then we are less than optimizing the power that we're actually given and designed to have. So someone's in the way there. Yeah. So I, of course, the recap of the sessions. So typically everyone just calls it the breathing exercises, but we do several layers and steps. The 3 key steps that we're doing is we're breathing through our belly, we're grounding into our body, into our feet. Or if you find yourself just in a part of your body, the point is to get out of your head. So if you're focused on your breathing and you're really down in your belly and can feel your belly, you're getting out of your head. So that's what you call is breathing and grounding. Because I can be breathing and still be stuck up in my head. I can still be pushing, inhaling in and out of my belly, and all of my focus is in my head. I can still do that. So we want to be able to shift where our point of focus is. And so you want to be aware of that. When I'm breathing, am I still up in my head, thinking, processing all information? Or am I shifting down into my body, especially into my belly, down into your feet? I mean, the feet is the most powerful one, but we're not competing. If you're in your belly and you're just breathing in that, if you can get your focus down to your feet, and we did it through the different points, down to your head, down to your chest, belly, thighs, knees, calves, and this can take a little time, but it happens pretty quickly again, so that it definitely deepens your calm, definitely intensifies your relaxation response, and helps just get out of your head and just relax. And again, I can do that right now while I'm talking to you. Still my head, all very engaged, mentally focused, very cognitive, very clear, because again, the lower our stress response is the more we can actually access those higher regions of our brain. So I feel more relaxed, my brain is just clearer and more able to focus and deliver and think and process information. So we breathe, we ground, and then we're also positive focusing. I can breathe, I can ground, and my mind can still be remembering all the negatives in the day or the negatives of my life and all the things that people did to me that were terrible or the bad things I did that I didn't like about myself. So we want to, again, come back to some positive focusing, remembering our calm place, our safe place inside us, giving that a focus, giving that some attention. And so those are some of the key points, of course, that enable us to shift out of those, the negativity bias that we have inside of us, the tendency to go to the negative because of the stress responses, that we have more negative thoughts than we have positive thoughts. That's why we do need to develop that muscle, to give ourselves, to remember to focus on positives, to remember to get out of our head, to stimulate our relaxation response, to ground rather than be stuck in our head all the time, or just to be more in our body, rather, because again, the escapism, the flight response gets us out of our body. Also the freeze response shuts us down from feeling, so we're out of our body. So it's what you disconnect from yourself. So those are things that we're trying to do to help ourselves, but overuse of them will end up doing the opposite. So we want, and because like I said, we encounter so many challenges from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to sleep and start again the next day. And even when we're sleeping, we might be having a stress dream. So you want to be able to give that time to strengthen those emotional and mental muscles. And we can do that by remembering the safe place inside of us. And we had picture representatives of that, or if you had your own. Supporting our stress with calm. So not by avoiding our stressors, not by ignoring them, but by being able to, which we did in this different sessions, and we're going to do that exercise shortly, to actually identify what is it that when we're calm, once we're calm, we can use that calm place, that positive, to address things that we're actually feeling or thinking and own it rather than be ashamed of it or run from it. So I feel insecure today. I feel scared today. I feel anxious. I feel inadequate. I feel angry. I feel angry at the world, or I feel angry with myself. I feel disappointed in myself. I feel disappointed in someone else. We acknowledge what we feel, and instead of just engaging that, we can let it go. So we're less afraid of the different feelings, but we're not avoiding them. Neither are we over nurturing them, like just feeding them and feeding them. So it's that balance between running away from our feelings, but not wallowing. So we can either just get stuck in the bad feelings, so we're going to keep, and then we keep running away or struggling to try to get over the feelings that are stuck inside of us. But what we want to do is to be able to at least own them, to let them go a notch, that we're starving our stressors and feeding our calm. No easy task. And one of the reasons it's a really hard task is because when we are triggered, which we talk about today, we want to do the opposite. We want to just keep going towards our stress responses. We want to keep defending, protecting, and it feels like counterproductive to do the opposite. So it's a very important technique that can help balance out a lot of the responses that are happening all the time to us, because remember, it's so automatic. So we're also using confidence to balance out our fear responses, because when we are, one of the things that causes stress for us is when we lose our faith. In the last session, I talked about the hope versus the fear, and faith in ourselves, or trust in ourselves, or faith in the world, life, situations, even our spirituality. We often have doubts. We often doubt ourselves. We doubt the world, etc., etc. And because of the feelings of threat. So in COVID, am I going to be safe? So, and when we can't find a place to be safe, when we can't think of how we can feel better, then the stress response just doesn't settle down. It's harder to settle it down. But when we feel, okay, I can wear a mask, I can do these things to protect myself, I can keep social distancing, then I'm safer. Then I found a solution and then I can calm down. So I trust something. When I'm feeling insecure, someone has put me down, and I start to defend that, not necessarily with the person at all, but inside myself, I start fighting, or I start feeling depressed about myself. I'm not good enough. I can't measure up. I can't do anything right. And we start being hard on ourselves. Then we are losing our confidence, and that causes that it triggers the stress response. So by finding that confidence, it helps to be able to balance out some of those intrinsic stressors that occur. So we have that confidence in the world, and within ourselves or with others, and again, ours both, helps to balance out that stress response. The other thing, so these are just different coping techniques. So there's the breathing, there's a positive focusing, there's also building our confidence, creates a safety within us to manage the challenges in life. Because when we are, like I said, when we doubt whether the world or others, I'm repeating, then our stress response goes up, 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 and it's harder to bring it down. When we see ourselves, which is part of the confidence, that's a family to it. When we don't appreciate ourselves, when we put ourselves down, when we attack ourselves, when we beat ourselves down, we become our own worst enemy rather than our own friend. And if someone was doing that to us, it would stress us out to the maximum. We would be like somebody putting me down all the time. I would be stressed, and that would be the fight, flight, and freeze response. And, so it's pretty obvious if somebody's words are attacking us, how it's stressful or it's hurtful, and that of course is stressful. However, if we're doing it to ourselves, it's more invisible, we don't see it, but it equally evokes a stress response within us. But we allow it if we're in the habit of doing it, which is what we're going to look at today. And so we talked about that briefly in the end of the last session, and we're going to explore that more deeply today. And so the good news is that our brain is changeable. Our brain can move. Let me check our time. Yeah. And that's the very good news. We tend to, when we again, if we're stuck in emotional habits, we don't realize we repeat them over and over, and it feels harder to change them. But one of the things I want to take from these sessions by tomorrow is that it is changeable, but it just takes work. And so breathing, we can learn that easier, and grounding, we can practice that, but shifting some of these are much more arduous and difficult work. But I definitely would like to include it in our sessions, but I will say absolutely that it is more arduous, but worth it. So the key to balance, which is this is what we did. We deep belly breathing, we're slowing down of the breath. These are the steps. Grounding into the feet or place in the body to balance out the stress response. Remember how dominant it is. So these are the techniques to help balance it out. We focus on our calm feelings. We focus on positives, a happy or safe place within us using our imagination. We use our calm strength to support our stressors and balance out our stressors, because as we build these safer, confident places, we want to use them to support the stressors, not avoid them, not struggle with them, not shut down from them, but to actually move through them. That's the important thing. So because otherwise the stress responses will do the opposite to the things that trigger us. It just wants us to, it's opposite impulses. This way, instead of avoiding, we are able to feel our emotions and balance them out using our calm, using our positivity, using our imagination. And it's very important not to run away from what we're feeling, because they don't go anywhere. They stay right where they are. They stay stuck in our body, stuck in our mind. And if we have a repetitive situation, it will keep coming back. Identifying the stressor feeling rather than avoiding it. So that's why we're identifying it rather than avoiding it, or not feeling it or struggling. And so as we identify it, then this is where the additional strength is building our internal confidence through positive self-reinforcement is something we can do anytime, anywhere, and master in our lives, because this also helps to build that safe place within us that we can utilize when we're stressed. And so we always come back to refocusing on our breath, our safe place, and positive self-reinforcement. So we can do this in our day-to-day life, and we can do this as a complete exercise as well. So any questions, by the way? Anyone have anything they wanted to point out, add, share, comment about? Okay, well, I will continue since I have, but I really want you to feel free to ask questions. I hope I'm clear here. So back to, we're going to come into, oh, actually, before we, yeah, we'll do this first and then we'll do an exercise. So how do you describe yourself to yourself? So you know how we describe other people? This person is kind, that person is mean, that person is selfish, that person, you know, is insensitive, that person is really loving, that person is ambitious, that person is lazy. You know, we describe other people. So I'd like you to just take a moment and think about or write down how you describe yourself to yourself. And why I want you to do that is because I want you to become self-aware. When you first think about describing yourself to yourself, are the first thoughts that come about yourself negative, or are they positive? Or are they a mixture of both? So if I think, what do I think of myself? Take a moment, because I want you to be aware of what's your first self-image? What are some of your self-images? Because that's what's going on in your imagination all the time. That's how you're processing or identifying yourself. And it's good for you to be aware of this. So take a moment. And I'll talk, as you're doing that, I just want you to be aware that we're in the balance zone. Self-love is not just, I'm perfect, because no one is. I'm not, you're not, no one else. It's unrealistic. We can never achieve it. It's impossible. It's useless to even consider that as an option. However, self-love is the balance of being able to see, oh, the wonderfulness inside of me, my own unique divine spark of light that makes me me, that you appreciate about yourself as your qualities, maybe your sense of humor, that you're kind, that you're intelligent, that you're warm, that you're caring, that you're supportive. These are the qualities that you appreciate in yourself. I like this about me. I appreciate that in me. I value this in me. At the same time, we have shadows. We have parts of ourselves that are weaker, that we may not find as favorable, that we recognize as our weaknesses. I have them, you have them, everybody has them, and we're aware of them at multiple times all throughout the day. I see myself getting frustrated about something. I see myself getting angry about something. I have to work to calm down, anxious about something, irritated about something, frustrated, hopeless, worry, whatever. Oh, it's endless. The shadows that I may encounter in a day, or parts of my personality that I see arise all the time. And the thing about the self-love, which is why we want to be able, again, remember that what we want to do here is we want to support our weaknesses with a strength. Self-love is a strength in us that we want to use to support our weaknesses. So I'm going to have lots of shadows, parts of my personality, in a moment in a day that I might not experience all the time, but something happens and I'm like, so I don't go around raging at the world. I don't. But maybe something will trigger me on a day and I have to use that calm to come down and say, let it go. Don't engage that. Or I may decide in that moment that I have to take a stand for myself and it's okay for me to express this. I'm making choices about the different emotions I have. There's nothing like inherently good or bad. It's how much we use it, how much we overuse it, the circumstances, the situations. But when I look at me and I'm going to be aware of these strengths, of these weaknesses, and sometimes a strength will be, and oftentimes our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness. If you put down something you appreciate in yourself, like a kindness, that you're kind, it may also be something that is a weakness for you. You're kind to the expense of yourself, that you get mistreated or you don't take care of yourself. So usually they're going to be both sides to a strength within us, because we'll overuse it because it's a strength. Because everything has its shadow and its light. And so you notice I'm not saying it's a negative versus a positive, because I think every part of us is perfectly designed, but if it's used in a way that's not helpful, or it's overused when it's something that's detrimental, or even if it's something that is a positive but we overuse it, it will become something detrimental. Like I said, if I'm over kind, if I'm over nice, equally if I am laid back and become too laid back, I need to motivate myself. So there's, and laid back is a fine quality, but if it goes so far over that I just am demotivated, and then it can become selfish or self-centered. So many ways that we can express ourselves. So we're aware of, so self-love is the ability to manage our shadows in a loving way, but not a denial way, what I call the responsible way. So I can own it, but I don't have to beat myself up about it. I can help myself, support myself as a friend would. So if I'm feeling down on myself, do I want a friend to come and say, well, you're so stupid, how come you keep doing that? I want the friend to encourage me and say, I know you can do better. I believe in you. How can I help you calm down? How can I help you, support yourself in this time rather than beat yourself up? So if you go to a friend and say, I was really angry today, I wasn't my best person today, and the friend said, well, what happened? And you'll say, oh, someone said this to me and did that to me. And you say, well, okay, well, I can understand that these were the reasons that you acted in this way, and how do you want to change that behavior in the future? That's kind of compassion and kindness. That's what we're all wanting in the end, in terms of support that feels positive, that helps us overcome. We don't want more to be attacked, but neither do we want to be let off the hook, so to speak. You want to find, again, the balance. Remember that this is the balance zone. It's not like nobody arrives at balance. It's something I think we work at every day. So self-love is the ability to look at ourselves compassionately, our weaknesses and our strengths, and use those strengths to support our weaknesses, how we can help guide us. If I'm angry, I go, okay, how could I have dealt with that situation in a different way? How would I want to change that in the future? How do I want, and why was I that way? What happened to me? What caused that? What makes me act that way? Maybe we don't know, but we're on a path, because that's day to day. Every single day, I am acting in a way that I have unfavorable moments many times in the day. Because life is full of constant stressors and challenges and difficulties. And so it's the kindness. We all need to learn more self-love, not less. And it's not an ego thing. It's because it's not about I'm so perfect. It's about being able to know that we're less than perfect, but to be able to be kind to ourselves and encourage ourselves towards the changes that we're seeking or want. So if I'm going out exercising, I'm going to beat myself up because I gained 5 pounds, or am I going to support myself and encourage myself that I'm actually out doing something to help myself? Am I going to focus on all the things that I did that got me there? I can, in terms of recognizing the things I want to change, but then be encouraging myself towards making that change. And so that's why I think this was a phrase I used the last time: be careful how you are talking to yourself, because you are listening. I can never stress this one enough, because we often get in the habit of being quite unkind to ourselves. So to help balance that out, we want to see the ways that we are enough. I am enough because and write down 3 ways that you are enough. Not perfect, no such thing. What do you value? I value in me. I value in me my kindness, my support. What do you value? Qualities, not things you do, but qualities. You're enough because this is, well, however you know that you are enough. And also know that because you're enough doesn't mean that you're not going to have weaknesses and have challenges and have things to grow and learn. And I like to think of growth as the most exciting thing about life, because if I didn't have something to learn, if there wasn't more about me to discover, life would be very boring. There would be nothing more to do. It's a huge, infinite universe with endless possibilities. That means that when we're in a box, we can break out. If I'm stuck, I've been stuck many, many times in my life, on every level. And how do I get out of it? How do I break free of this awful cycle that I'm in, that I seem stuck and it's not changing? And I can say that these are tools that have helped me break out of the many, many boxes that I have found myself in, still find myself in, but find myself in less than I used to, that's for sure. And keep breaking free and from so much of the mental and emotional imprisonment that we have learned and patterns that we perpetuate within ourselves. So does any questions, my lovely ladies? If not, I'd love to do a self-support exercise, just variations of the sessions that the different ways you can use these exercises. We will always standardize certain parts of it. We'll always standardize the breathing through the belly, the grounding, and the positive, the focusing on the calm feelings. I'd like to standardize also the feeling you're a safe place, but sometimes that feeling is enough as your safe place. You may imagine it, but even if you're just feeling your calm and your safe place inside of you, that's enough. If you want to take it that little stronger towards feeling your image, your metaphor, your own narrative, that safe place, you can use your imagination. You can add to that feeling with an image, and then use that to support a challenge. So we went through 2 different challenges that we talked about in the last 2 sessions. One, a professional stressor. The second one was ways that you experiences where you felt not good enough. So we use a stressor experience. A professional stressor experience was one of the challenges, the stressors we looked at the first day. The last session on Friday, we looked at another stressor, which is feeling put down, whether we put ourselves down or another puts us down. And that kind of internal stressor of feeling inadequate and not good enough. That's an incredible internal stressor that all human beings encounter and struggle with. This part and parcel of what it is to be human. So you could think of either stressor or another stressor in your life right now. And I want you to think about that before we start the session, to consider that stressor, any stressor that you're feeling, and because we want to use that to support the session. So we have, so we breathe, we ground, we focus on the positive, focus on the calming place. And we address the stressor. Another thing that we can do is give ourselves the self-support, the positive reinforcement, the things we appreciate in ourselves, the things we like in ourselves, things we value in ourselves, and we give ourselves what I call a positivity boost. That would be a 5th, or rather a 6th element that you can do. And you can, in a given day, just remind yourself, if you notice that you're being hard on yourself, to just shift to a positivity boost. I think we should give ourselves a positivity boost every single day. So it doesn't have to be a linear, that you have to do all these things all at the same time, but you can certainly remember, driving in my car, taking a walk, cleaning my teeth. Let me remember to just give myself my little booster, my positivity boost. What do I appreciate in me? You can incorporate that, because we want to balance out some of those insecurities and fears and inadequacies and not good enough feelings that we all encounter every one of us, every day of our life, whether we consciously recognize it or not. And so we try and balance it out with some kind of way that we give ourselves love and the nurturing that we're seeking. So in this self-support exercise we're going to do, we're going to go through the up to the positivity boost, and then we're going to do a focus on a stressor, let that stressor go. And we're going to let that stressor go and then come back to our calm. So we have those different parts. So it's a few steps. And like I said, and so I encourage you to do all of them, because you're going to see how each one impacts you and makes you feel, how you feel when you boost yourself, those different changes in your mind and body when you do each step. Anyone have any questions? Okay, so let's close our eyes. Even if you feel a little sleepy, that's fine. The whole point is just do what you can. Whatever you can is good enough. You're learning, and we're all learning here. And so let's slow the breathing down. We're going to inhale into the point below your belly button. Belly rising for the inhale and deflating for the exhale. Long, deep, even breath. Belly rising, belly falling. So you're counting in your mind, 1, 2, 3 for the inhale. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. So the point is that you're slowing your breathing down as you push your belly out for the inhale and pull your belly in for the exhale, and try and make it smooth, not like pushing, but just kind of soft, open, gentling of your torso. Belly rising, belly falling. It can go all the way to your back. That might sound like too much, but just like the whole torso just filling of air. Just filling your torso of air and exhaling gently. Bring your focus down to your throat. We're grounding now. Push your belly out for the inhale, gently slowing the breathing down. You can count in your mind if your mind is busy. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. If you go to 4, you can also go to 4. It's all the way that you're breathing in and out of your belly and slowing the breathing down, focusing on your throat. Let's bring your focus to your chest area. So you're coming out of your head, you feel yourself moving down into your body. Your belly expands for the inhale, deflates for the exhale. Focus on your chest. Come down to your belly area. Push your belly out. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 3, 2, 1. Deflate the belly. Bring your focus down to your hips. If you only get to that point, that's fine. Whatever you can do is good enough. There's no pressure here. It's all about learning. Belly out for the inhale as you focus on your hips. Exhale. You release your breath. Bring your focus down to your thighs. You feel your bones, your muscle. You're kind of concentrating on your skin and that your muscle, that area of your body. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 3, 2, 1. Keep your body still and unmoving. Shoulders relax, body relax. Focus on your calves. Push your belly out for the inhale. Pull your belly in for the exhale. Then come to the focus on your feet. If you've gotten to a point in your body, you're out of your head, just focus on that. Good enough. If you can focus on your feet, stay grounded. If you're lying down, just focus on your feet. If you're seated, feel the ground beneath your feet. Notice the increase in calm when you get to your feet. Belly out for the inhale. It's okay if you're feeling sleepy. Belly in for the exhale. Stay grounded. Your mind wanders, come back to your counting. Your mind wanders, come back to the ground or the place in your body that you're focusing on. Push your belly out, focus on your calm feeling, and find your safe place in your body, that image of your safe place. And you may, where you're feeling the calm. Do you feel the calm in your head, your chest, your throat, your gut, your back, your legs? Focus on where you feel the calm in your body and just allow yourself to feel and focus that calm and your image of calm, your picture of calm. And again, use your senses. You may not see it as a visual, you may feel it, you may hear the sound of the wind or hear the sound of water. You may smell the sound of a beach. You may smell the sound, the fresh grass or the flowers. You may hear the sounds of birds chirping, whatever. So you want to just feel your image of your safe place. And in that safe place, you feel the ground, you're grounded, you're in your feet or in a place in your body. Notice the any changing feelings, maybe an increase in calm or a change in emotion as you go deeper into calm, grounding, and then your image, your safe place. That's your safe place inside. And from your safe place, grounded in your safe place, give yourself your positivity boost. You may even imagine yourself like an image of yourself. If you do that, you can feel a sense of yourself. You can even imagine embracing yourself, giving yourself a big, loving hug. Love yourself. You may even physically feel your arms around yourself, hugging yourself. And as you embrace yourself, reinforce yourself with a positive appreciations, what you appreciate in you, maybe what you value in you, why you are enough. Any of the 3 statements that stand out that you felt really resound for you. And repeat that 3 times to yourself. Actually, 4 times. It takes 4 positive statements to cancel out a negative. So 1 negative, you need 4 positives to cancel out 1 negative. Give yourself your boost. Notice how you feel. Do you feel more confident, better about yourself, loved, nurtured? That's the power of the imagination, because we look for others to love us. We can do it for ourselves. How it feels to actually give yourself the love you deserve and how real it feels. And just breathe that through your body. And now that we're in our calm place, I know you don't want to think about your stressor or things that, but breathe, you're relaxed now. Let's turn your attention to thinking about a stressor, something that's stressing you. Don't lose your breathing, but just think about a stressor, a professional stressor, or someone putting you down as a stressor. And just take a moment, but a current stressor, one that's current for you. And you think about that for a moment and notice any change in your body as you think about your stressor. Do you feel a tension? And where do you feel that stressor in your body? In your head, in your throat, in your chest, in your gut, in your legs. Notice when you think about your stressor, any change in your body, maybe a heaviness or a heavy feeling. And as you're breathing and as you feel that stressor in your body, just feel yourself letting it go. If it feels like something heavy, like a rock or a metal, just take it out. Or it feels like a picture, a memory, or just a heavy feeling. Whatever that feels like, just take that stressor out of your head and just put it in the garbage. Take it out of your face and take it out of your throat. Take it out of your shoulders, arms, and hands. Take it out of your heart. Take it out of your gut. Take it out of your back. Take it out of your legs and feet. Take your stressor and throw it in the garbage and just let it go and just see it disappearing into air. Poof, you let it go. And now you come back to your breathing. Belly out for the inhale. Belly in for the exhale. Belly in and out. And just give yourself your positivity boost again. Go back to your safe place. Find your safe place. Boost yourself with your love. Push your belly out. Imagine giving yourself a hug. You deep breathe. You find your calm place. You boost yourself. Whatever stands out for you. 2 more breaths. Push your belly out. Focus on your feet. Stay grounded. Belly out for the inhale. Exhale. Long, deep, even breathing. And you can open your eyes. Any questions? I'd really like to hear from someone for this. That would be really helpful. Just to hear your voice. how you felt about that, any challenges that you had. But I will ask, will you, so let me ask, do I have one volunteer? Any volunteer?
Yes, I can volunteer. I will
Thank you.
volunteer. Yes. It felt good going through the exercise. You know, I was able to be calm, and I appreciated the fact of, you know, you said give yourself the love you deserve, and that's something that you know I enjoy doing, because joining the session I was a bit stressed, you know, thinking about all that I have to do and not being able to complete everything, and you know, just sitting there, breathing, going through the process, building up myself and my confidence, and then getting rid of that stress. So that was a good exercise for me.
Thank you. So I'll ask a couple questions. So did you notice like a change, like a deepening or a change in emotion? So when you breathe and then you grounded, did you notice there was a difference when you grounded? Like, did it get stronger?
Yes. There was a difference. There was a difference. I got more calm, or having gone through
Right.
that. I felt more calm.
And when you focused on your part, and then when you got to the part where you gave yourself the positivity boost, did it increase that?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Were you able to see your safe picture?
Yes, I was able to imagine my garden and to smell the smell of a fresh bout of rain, and that put me in a very nice place.
Excellent, excellent. And then you were still able, so did you feel like you wanted to avoid your stressor at that point, or you were like, okay, I can address my stressor?
I felt I was able to handle it because I was now at a space where, you know, I had this confidence, I had this boost, and I could tackle my stressor. So that is what happened to me.
This is what we're talking about.
Yes.
So because that's what we want. We don't want it to be, oh, now I'm all calm. Let me run away from life some more. I don't want to deal with any problems, which can happen. I don't want to face anything. We want it to be the opposite. We want to take that into the world with us. So we have a deepening of strength. And why I wanted to ask you like the deepening is because I want to encourage the thinking. It's just, we're not just breathing. We're doing multiple things as coping strategies. They can be all integrated into one. They can also be used at different points. So when you know you're being down on yourself, remember to give yourself your positivity boost. We can practice breathing all the time, granted, and we can practice without grounding. So you remind yourself at least once a day to make sure that you're grounded.
Yes.
And so I'm really happy that you were able to do all of because I know like, and might I ask you as well, Janice, did you feel that it's easier to do by the third day today than it was like the first time?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Because I remember when I joined one of the sessions, because I joined a bit late and you were in the process going through, I tried to get into the habit of breathing and getting to that place to deal with my stress. But there was just so many things, I pushed it off. I said, you know, not now. But now, having gone through and practicing, it's becoming easier.
And that's one of the great things that's how much we can, I mean, and like I said earlier, that's why this is really teachable, because you get benefit. So it's motivating. Like you actually feel, it's not like certain things like you really takes along. So you get a result, even just a little bit gets you there quite quickly because it's natural. Like I said, every night when we're sleeping, we're deep breathing. So, but in the daytime, you might cut it off. So your body knows how to do it. Anyone else? Thank you for sharing, Janice. Anyone else wants
You're
to?
welcome, no problem.
Anyone else want to share? Have any questions? Okay, so we're polling now. I asked the question, because you feel something, it is true. Example, I feel I'm incapable, that I can't do it because I feel it, it is true. Anyone else? We have 3 more people just to jump in and give us your thoughts. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
I'm not sure if I can respond on what your this poll is asking.
Yes,
Um,
I'll share the poll in a second, but go ahead. Yes, go
I
ahead.
think you shared it already. You shared it already.
Oh, okay.
I think it's false. Well, not I think, I know it's false because many times we might tell ourselves we can't do something without even trying.
Mhm.
And what earlier, the quote by oh boy, it was Lisa Hayes. Be
Right.
careful how you're talking to yourself because you are listening.
Yes.
Many times it's what we say to ourselves that allow us to feel that we can't do something. But if we start speaking positively to ourselves, just telling ourselves that we can, that we are going to try, that we are going to keep doing it until we get it right, we will eventually succeed. So I think it's about what you say to yourself that makes it possible or make it possible.
Thank you for sharing. Yes. So we have two people that said it was true. There is no right or wrong answer to this. So if anyone feels brave enough to explain why they think this is true, I'm really happy to hear. And not to feel you're saying it wrong. There is no right or wrong. There is a reason why you would think it's true. If you feel like sharing, I invite you to share and not to feel self-conscious that that you got it wrong. Because like I said, there is no wrong or right here. It's a matter of perspective and also your experience. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to add, I selected false, but looking through it, I can have arguments for true as well. In the sense, if you're thinking something negative, then you could say you don't have to believe it. But if you're feeling and you're feeling positive, like I'm confident, then if you have that positive feeling, then that can actually cause you to believe that it is actually true. So in a sense, when it comes on to something negative, we could say, okay, because it's negative, we don't have to accept this as being truth. But if you're thinking something and feeling something positive, then you could say, okay, because this is positive, having that feeling will propel you, cause you to believe and actually act based on what you're feeling.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is actually both are absolutely correct. And I'm going to explain why. And so, but I love what you said, and I'll add one little scientific, one thing that they know is that, if you, for instance, it's mind and body, but body and mind. If you smile, like a real big smile, where you can, to the point where you can, smile into your eyes, not just like little smile like this, but a smile that goes right into your eyes, and you hold that smile, and you're really feeling miserable or depressed, your body will start believing that you're happy because you're sending that message. The facial muscles send that message to the brain, and it will release endorphins, happier endorphins. But we don't do that. We don't, because you feel foolish, but you can try it. Feeling low, just do that. Obviously, not if people are looking at you but you try it, because the body also communicates to the brain, which is like when you're feeling sick, you notice it's much harder. And Shamil, you were talking about when you're talking to your sister, for instance, and we all know that when we're not feeling well, it's really harder for us to, it can be harder for us to be positive. We feel really low, harder. So feeling sick, for instance, is something in the body that can influence how we're feeling and thinking. So the reason that question is ambiguous is because of emotional habits. Our emotional habits, our responses they become habits that color our reactions without our really knowing it. And so as a result, we start to believe that what we're feeling and thinking is true, even when it's not, if it becomes a habit. So if I am accustomed to being angry all the time, for instance, I will stop feeling that I can change that feeling. So when I say I can, and when I start thinking in angry ways all the time, I believe that to be true. The person stepped on my toe, so therefore they're evil. The world is terrible. If I have these kind of ways of looking at the world and feel a certain way, they can, and I learned it very, say, early in childhood, and I've experienced these negative experiences, I will come to believe that's the way the world is. I will come to believe that's the way that I am. And those patterns of behavior become so dominant that I don't feel like I can control them. I don't feel like I can change them. And I will believe that they're to be true. The more that we strengthen an emotional muscle, it creates a pathway in our brain that it colors the way we think and the way we feel, and it becomes our go-to place. And that's positives and negatives. And so if someone is accustomed to being anxious all the time, it will not feel like they can control that feeling. They will stop feeling. So that will feel like, just because I feel it, then it's true. It'll be like, yeah, but they will start to believe that narrative, and they will believe that feeling. And it will feel harder and harder to take control of that feeling or the thoughts that go alongside it. They will feel out of our control, and they will feel true to us. So especially if an experience that repeats itself, situations that repeat itself, it can be very hard to see the world in a different way. And so that's why what we train ourselves to do, to think, to feel is very, very important, because they become ingrained. And habits that we, particularly emotional habits and mental habits that we learn early in life to no fault of our ours, then those, we walk into the world with them and think they're part of who we are. And it will feel harder and harder for us to change that habit or that thought processing, because it's so dominant. But the good news is that the brain is changeable. And if you start just not by taking on all the habits, but like choosing a habit that you feel that maybe you want to look at. So it gives you the power of choice. Learn how to control your emotions, choose them, don't let them choose you. But that is really easier said than done when we have an emotional habit. And I say that to you and to everyone because it's important that you understand how tough it is to actually change something that's very ingrained, so that you can be compassionate to yourself and you don't have unrealistic expectations, that you won't leave this workshop and go, oh, I was feeling positive 2 minutes ago, and how come it's not coming back? Why am I not doing it again? Why I was good yesterday and bad today, it's not as good. Da, 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 da. Be really watchful not to find new ways to beat yourself up. When you want to, because every day is its own story and every moment. And when you have emotions and emotional habits, mental habits that have been ingrained, and you identify, I want to modify that. I want to balance that out. I want to transform that completely. I want to change that because it's hurting me. Then that journey is tough. It is, it is difficult, and you're going to have ups and downs, and it's going to be good days and bad days, and you're going to go back to what you know because it's automatic and it's learned. And to change, so if you've been accustomed to beating yourself up, you can't just change it in a day. It's catching it and changing it, and it's consistency, and that's where it gets really boring, and that's where it gets unrewarding, because you do it again and you go back to the same pattern again, and that's where you can give up because it's arduous. And I don't say that as for you to go, oh my goodness, what's the point? But just to be aware. And so you always approach yourself with compassion in the learning curve. That's very tough. So we can change emotional habits by repeating new emotional behaviors. And to do that, you have to be aware of your emotions. So if you're aware of an emotion that you want to, so let's say you're really hard on yourself and then you feel insecure. You want to be aware of that, beating yourself up and being insecure, and how you can boost yourself. So, and don't expect that to happen in a moment. That behavior, emotional and mental, did not happen overnight. So it can't change in a day. It's an everyday constant thing. It's a consistency. So managing our emotions is self-management, and it happens all day long, every day of our life, whether we're aware of it or not. Like I said, as I open my eyes, I'm emotionally regulating. I'm managing my emotions. Getting out of bed, I have to clean my teeth, answer this, do this. Whatever we're doing is us choosing is emotional management. And in childhood, we learn ways to manage, and some of them will be helpful and some of them will be detrimental for all of us, no matter our background. Some of them will be really help us, some of them will harm us. And we have to determine what is harmful. And like I said, when you leave this and I give you this and you think about it, I really encourage you not to decide to take on this whole long laundry list. Choose just one, take on one, work on that, build the capacity that becomes familiar. You learn the technique. So I used to be a very, very impatient person. And I think, and it comes, I think, from multiple sources. Both of my parents are very impatient personality types. One is actually not too stable at all mentally, and the other very normal and lovely. So I was raised by my mother for the most part, and she's very stable but impatient, and less by my father, and he's very not the most stable person, but he's impatient. So environmentally, I was exposed to personalities that weren't patient. And I'm an energetic personality type. I'm sure you noticed. So I'm in an environment without it, and it's part of I think my makeup, that I'm kind of like energetic. So that I think that has also created more of a tendency towards impatience. Could be also environment, my DNA, parenting styles, different, so exposure, so multiple sources. But when I began at a certain point in my life, I realized that I identified that the source of many of my challenges and hurts and destructions, things that were harming my life, came from me being impatient. And I go, I need to learn to be patient. It was not easy at all. And not just emotionally, mentally, but physically, because I had the physical impulse and impetus to want to move, to act. So to actually be patient, to stay still, to do nothing. Oh, I used to feel like I was being put upon that some kind of some unjust force was, until I realized that actually the message, what I was finding as an injustice, was actually something trying to help me. It was in the universe guiding me. I couldn't recognize that I was being guided because I felt put upon and victimized by something I really needed. So when I surrendered and said, I need to learn this quality, it was not just changing my brain and changing my emotion. It was changing my body to sit still, not to act, not to react. And then I gained perspective. I learned when I was impatient, when it was time to act, or when to sit back and stay still. And in fact, at first I tried just to stay still, to be patient before I even took action. And I learned to know the difference between an impatient feeling and an impulse to take action. That this is action time versus not doing time. Because I would feel this kind of rushed feeling, and I would identify that's my impatience. That did not happen overnight. That was like, I remember about 1 year when I actually began to start to feel what patience felt like in my body, happened in about a year's time, by practicing it and going through the discomfort, the absolute discomfort of feeling what patience was. Didn't like it at first. Now, give me it any day. Come. I want it. So what I once was my enemy became my very best friend. So I say this because, and it's never, I'm still learning it. I've never stopped. I still have to learn how to be patient. I still have to exercise that emotion, except it's more familiar, more available, a more of emotional habit. So I can know, I can pull it to me. So I want to encourage you to say, not to decide a long list of weaknesses, just try one. And that same principle I can apply and have applied to other things that I want to learn. I realize that to learn requires patience in the first place, and that I don't expect myself to get it right away. And that I'm going to go through discomfort and uncomfortability, and it's going to feel unfamiliar. And that's part of the journey, but the reward is greater than the effort. Just choose one. Take on one battle of yourself at a time. It's going to be way easier to learn. And that learning will be what you can learn for other skills as well. And be patient, be kind, be compassionate. That's how we learn. And if something is stubborn, it means it's long-standing and it's deeply ingrained and it's going to take time. Stop me at any point. So awareness, so I'm just checking the time. Good. Okay. So when the system is overflooded with stress, we become easily triggered and reactive, which can lead to such thing as lowered intelligence. Remember, I talked about that. Anxiety, depression, irritable bowel movement, physical things that happen. Because, you know, the 90% of the, or 90 something percent of serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is in our gut, which is why we're happy when we eat and enjoy food, which is nature's way to keep us surviving, but can flip over. So the stress again can cause aggression, sleep disturbances, disease. And so the first step to understand and deal with triggers is simply to notice them. So I turn now to dealing with our triggers because they're important. Our emotions aren't happening in a vacuum. They're happening by things that affect us, and therefore they will trigger habitual emotional responses. So if I have an emotional response as a learned emotional habit of impatience, then that would be when I am triggered, when things impact me, I go to, that becomes my default zone. I go to that emotional habit instantaneously without being aware. And I'm acting from that emotional habit. Everyone has emotional habits because it's impossible. What we want to do is train ourselves to have more helpful emotional habits. But even when we train ourselves, we'll have lots of humbling moments in our life. I used to say for years as boy, life is humbling. And now I don't say it anymore. And I think it's because I've learned to be more humbled. When I was learning to humble myself, I would always feel like life was humbling, which is meaning I really need to learn how to humble myself. And now I'm a lot more humble. And so therefore I don't always feel like life is humbling me because I can embrace my weaknesses with a lot more grace and less shame than when I was feeling that I was humbled because I had more shame about my weaknesses and vulnerabilities. And now here I am, all my flaws, and perfectly made this way, that we're creatures of God, made this way. So I'm okay with it. So what are triggers? We're triggered all the time. Humans are trigger happy species. And what happens when we're triggered? Our emotional habits will get triggered. And what are our triggers are very individual for us, but nonetheless, there are triggers that are very common amongst human behavior. When we're criticized, and I don't mean informed about something that can help us grow. So I ask you guys questions. You can tell me, something about that I need to learn from this course that would help me be a better instructor or pass on information, things that might not have been clear. You tell me, I learn, I grow, I'm grateful for that information. I mean, when someone puts you down, why are you so stupid? Why you can't get it right? Why you never do that? That kind of hard tearing you down rather than informing you of something you need to learn, but like cutting you down, tearing you down. When people tear us down, it can cause that's a very common human trigger. I'm just giving you some pretty general. And then we either react to it or we learn how to find that confidence in ourselves not to react to a trigger like that. So when we're triggered, those are our stress responses. And our triggers create a lot of stress, and we can have triggers from external, what's happening. So COVID is a big global trigger. It's a personal trigger, it's a family trigger, it's a social trigger. There's so there are a lot of external triggers that happen professionally, family, environmentally, financially, endless triggers. But there are also internal triggers, and which I often think of as more difficult because they're invisible. Whereas COVID is a clear trigger because I can see it, I can measure it, and all of us are going through it and we all understand this is a trigger. But if I have an internal trigger, especially if it's a habit, I'm doing it to myself unaware. I'm beating myself up. I'm putting myself down. Or I'm different emotions that are difficult for me to handle. If I'm feeling hurt and other things have hurt me in my past, that hurt will trigger different cascade of emotions or emotional habits. So anger is an often triggered emotion that everybody will have. 1 minute of anger weakens your immune system for 4 to 5 hours. 1 minute of laughter boosts your immune system for over 24 hours. That's the good news. That means that when we can build ourselves up, it actually is a very significant protective factor that's greater than ones that try and weaken us. So give yourself that boost. And laughter, when you laugh, if you give yourself, when you laugh, that's using your diaphragm. We laugh through our belly, and that's why it's also so stress releasing, because you're laughing in and when you call it a belly laugh, that's your diaphragm moving in and out, ha ha ha. So that triggers your relaxation response. You might not have realized that, but that's what's happening in your belly as well. It's the same relaxation response as deep breathing as well. Any questions? So this is where I talk about internal and external triggers. Those are the events and situations that happen around you, which I talked about, the situations. The internal triggers are worrying about problems all the time, or just worrying about problems, even for a few minutes. It doesn't even have to be all the time. Negative past memories, those can be really hard. We've all had painful things that have happened to us. They get triggered. Something happens in the day, they come up, or we start thinking about them, or we haven't gotten over something that hurt us. And fears about the future, worrying about finances, worrying about what happens if we don't get the economy going nationally because of COVID. Fears of future are probably very prevalent now because of COVID. But everybody has negative past memories. And so if we get stuck in these things, if these past memories are very difficult for us, if they haunt us, we'll get triggered by different circumstances that trigger those, not necessarily even the memory, but the emotions, because negative past memories are connected to emotions. So if I was put down harshly in my past, that's a negative past memory that hurt me. And as a result, I feel insecure and not good about myself. Everybody has had this in their life. So this is general, some way more than others, and have a lot more trauma around being put down. And that could be called emotional abuse, for instance. Then if I wake up in the morning and I feel insecure, just for any reason, I wake up in the morning, I take a look in the mirror and I'm going, ooh, women do that all the time. If I put on a thing and I go, oh, I gained my skirt's a little tight, something like that, for instance, or anything that we are looking at, anything, just giving you something just as simple as just having a moment in the morning of waking up, your hair not looking the way you like it to look, or anything, and that triggers an insecurity that can also trigger the insecurities from your emotional past, and then that's an internal stressor. So you've already started your day stressed without anything necessarily happening to you, just a thought, a process that is an emotional or mental habit that's something that's disruptive or stresses you out, will coming from within you will trigger your stress response internally. Because again, if someone was saying that to you or doing that to you, it would trigger your stress response. So that's why it's so important that we give ourselves some time to give ourselves a positivity boost, to support ourselves, so that if we're caught in remembering all the negative things that happened to us, balance that out with thinking of positive things that have happened to us. So if I'm starting to think about what she did or he did and how people hurt us or abandoned us or didn't do this for us or took whatever, think about a counter opposite memory when you were supported, when you did get kindness, where that existed in your life. So we're winding down. Just checking our time. So how do we manage triggers? We become aware, and again, don't take on a large battle. Just trying to be aware of one. If there's something that you can target, you want to change. On the whole, we are managing our triggers, like from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to sleep at night, and we're managing them quite smoothly. Like I said, I wake up in the morning, I know I have to get up, clean my teeth, for instance, then I am managing that awareness that this is an act I have to do. And then I'm self-regulating. So if I'm triggered along the way and I don't feel like getting out of bed this morning, I'm so tired. Oh, I have to face this day. I just want to lie here some more. We're already aware that we're already going into maybe a fear or anticipation or a negative zone. We're triggered, opening our eyes. So we're regulating those different emotions, but if I don't go to work or I don't get up now, my kids are going to starve. Or something as simple as, I really need to go to the washroom, so I better get up now, or there's going to be a problem. So we're regulating our trigger. So it's just by that awareness, because so much of our self-management is unconscious. So when you have a trigger, say you're anxious, you can identify the cause. That can be internal cause or an external cause. I'm anxious because I've been beating up on myself and feeling bad about myself. So therefore I'm beating up myself and therefore I'm feeling really insecure. Or that happened to me today. You know, Joe was mean, said unkind words. Now I feel like a loser. Or I'm angry at Joe for being such an idiot. And I'm either struggling with some of those emotions. Then you can say, okay, this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. You take responsibility for that emotion. I'm feeling angry now. I'm feeling inadequate now. What's my choice? I'm feeling anxious now. I can help myself. I can breathe. I can ground. I can support myself. I can let it go. So those are the internal coping styles that we have. We also have other coping styles. We can exercise. We can talk to a friend. So those are different other external choices that we can make to treat ourselves. I can listen to some calming music. I can go to the beach. I can, I said exercise, which would be taking a walk. I can sit in nature. So there are other things we can do. So it's just what choice we're making, and then the actions we can then take. So am I going to do an internal exercise? Am I going to do something external? Am I going to do a combination? Take a walk, at my body moving, and at the same time deep breathing, ground, take a walk and support myself, talk to someone I trust, and through that thing I get more support, and then my own self-talk becomes more positive. Those are how we manage our triggers internally and externally. So that's the power of choice. Inner peace begins the moment you choose not to allow another person or event to control your emotions. As well as, I'm going to add, inner peace begins when you also take responsibility for your own emotions and feelings and work through them, which, like I said, make no mistake, that is incredibly tough, because you have to be aware of things that are often unconscious, face emotions that you don't like facing, look at parts of yourself that you may not like or appreciate or have a difficult time seeing because you feel shame or embarrassment, or you put yourself down about them, and instead support yourself and encourage yourself. So the internal work is the toughest in my estimate, because it's so invisible, but also the most rewarding because it gives you a sense of a power. The power comes from within yourself, and you use that throughout your life. Any questions? Any thoughts, any comments as we close out the session today? Anyone? so quiet. I want to hear somebody's voice. Ladies?
Hi, good day. Yes. As usual, I just want to say that it was a great session. It was a wonderful session. I think not only the breathing exercise, but the entire session is grounding. The entire session brings your body into peace and calm and allows you as an individual to start thinking deeply about yourself, your accomplishments, what you're going to do, how are you going to use this information going forward. There's so many thoughts that come through you positively from doing this session. So I just want to say thank you very much for the great work and for encouraging us as women so that we can go out and support others.
Thank you. I feel grateful. Thank you. I
Hello.
think, yes, Pastor. Hi.
Yeah, I want to thank you because I have a tendency of being very hard on myself. Whenever I do anything, I always think I didn't do it enough. I don't do it good enough, or maybe somebody's saying they didn't understand. And because I'm in the public eye so often, and it's really, really affect me,
Of
you know.
course.
It affects me a lot because I have a radio show last Wednesday. When I came home, I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't do well. And, and then after that, after I finished beat up on myself, I'm getting calls that said they enjoy the program. And so I'm like, gosh. So this today really helps me. And I'm going to go over the notes and really, because people think because you're a pastor, you got it all together. But
No such thing. No, I mean, I think
you
that,
have weakness too. You have weakness, man. So
and that's what
I want
makes
to
us,
thank you.
that's what makes us
Thank
able
you.
to help. You're so welcome. I mean, absolutely, we're all human, and the pressure, we don't need the pressure on us to add that additional pressure to ourselves to,
Right.
that, because it's exhausting, right? And so absolutely, I'm just trying to get I'd like to take a picture. I want to stop sharing. I want to just stop the sharing just so we could maybe take a picture. I was told by the lovely Tia how I could actually achieve a picture. So no, it's the reason I always talk about the beating up on the cells is because I see it all the time. People beat themselves up all the time. If anyone wants to turn on their camera for me to take a picture, I can do that. If you don't want to turn on your camera, that's fine as well. I don't want anybody to feel that they have to. But it's lovely to see everyone.
I'll do it, but I just washed my it's horrible, but it's okay. I'll turn it on.
Oh, no, it's really your comfort zone. The names are fine. I don't need anyone to feel they have to. I just want to show that people are here. Oh, yes, thank you. Okay. Our little faces popping up. That's good. Thank you. So, yeah, you can turn off your camera now if you, I do that all the time too. I'm like, oops, please don't ask me to turn on the camera. So, well, thank you, Pastor, for sharing, because I think, well, one, I think that's helpful for everyone, because like you said, when you're in a position, whatever position we are in life, we're all the same human beings going through everything. And if you're, and so many, I know many of you here are in positions of supporting other people. And when you're in those positions of supporting other people, you have to take that extra time to take care of yourself. And there's that extra pressure that you're supposed to be on all the time. And I think what connects us isn't our perfections, because there's no such thing. There is no human being. What connects us is our vulnerability. What connects us is that we're all human, working through the same emotions, trying to figure it out. And then we're all on this journey, supporting each other. And at no point, I mean, I am, like I said, I have accepted my humility more and more, which I feel has been the best thing for my life, because I don't have this expectation for myself to be perfect at any point, because I know it's impossible. I expect myself to make lots of mistakes, but I am, my encouragement in myself is that I'm willing to learn from them. I'm willing to say, that was wrong, that was good, that didn't work, let me work on this. I'm just aware of my humility all the time, all day long. But it's the compassion towards myself, and the compassion I should have to myself that I've learned consistently and build everyday compassion. I feel I share with others, and it helps at least not deplete me, and I don't get knocked down. So Pastor, I mean, with the wonderful work that I know that you're doing, that, and that, that I'm sure you'll hear. I mean, I hear so often, I've heard so often in my work, and I'll give 2 examples before closing out. I remember one person telling me that she was a public speaker, and she said she was so accustomed to being hard on herself. She was in a room, and and people were responding, I guess she was telling jokes and they were laughing, and she was getting all this response, and there were these 2, and she had a room, a room full of people, of women. And there were 2 women who just did not react. And when she's on the stage performing or presenting, she couldn't get her eyes off of these 2 women that would not react. And she was just focused on them, not on all the support she was getting. So let's say it's a room of 40 women. These 38 that she's getting a response from, could not see them. She's just targeting these 2 people, only to learn at the end of this that they did not speak English. So that is a classic example of how our brain, once it starts to get the emotional habit of focusing on the negatives in us, that because she is focusing on the negatives in herself, or those insecurities, she cannot feed into all that's good, and instead only focus on all that didn't work. And that's what is a prime example. Another lady I remember, I met her and she was just well put together, and I gave her a compliment. It's a good one. And she was like, I said, "Oh, you look so lovely." And afterwards I got to know her, and she said, it was she didn't believe me. And I said, "I find it very hard to imagine that nobody compliments you." And she goes, "Oh no, I don't get that." But I came to know people around her, and everybody had good things to say. And I said, "But why?" Because she wouldn't absorb it. If she heard one negative thing, that's all she heard, and all the positives that were actually being told to her, she just wasn't able to enter. Because remember, when the fight, flight, and stress response, they cut off your connection to your higher area of your brain, and you become like target focused on the problem. So if something's coming to attack you, like if you're in the jungle, you're just going to focus on that one attack. You're not going to notice all the green around, the lush green, and you're just going to notice this thing coming to get you. So all your targeted focus on the problem, which is how the fight, and freeze response. So if you really over strengthen those negative those critical narratives and seeing yourself, that's what you're going to see. And your fight, flight, and freeze response is going to just target those. It's just going to focus on them. And everything else around you, you're not going to notice, because they're not important. They're not threatening. And that's important for you to realize, why we just let yourself out of that part of your brain, get to those higher areas, and then you're more just able to say, yes, now I can see, now I can hear, and now I can absorb it. I can own it. I can let that come into my system and claim it. And most of us need to get used to, because society knocks us down. The world knocks us down. Families knock us down. Loved ones knock us down. Even the best meaning people knock us down. We knock ourselves down. We also have the opposite, but the world is full of both the shadows and the light. So I encourage us, that's why it's so important for us to ingrain in us the habits that we can utilize moment to moment, day to day, but we have to remember them. It's very easy for them just to be shoved in the closet, shoved under the rug. We forget them, we hide them, pull them out. We're divine creatures of light. We also have shadows. Let that light illuminate our shadows. But to illuminate our shadows, we must be able to confront them and face them, not to hide them, to be able to look at my weakness, to look at my shame, to look at my inadequacies with love and compassion rather than criticism and judgment. And like a part of those parts of ourselves, like a child, we want to bring them into the fold with love and encouragement, not beating down. We don't want to say to a child that's trying, you stupid idiot. You want to say, you can do it. I believe in you. Keep trying. Just because 1 + 1, you didn't figure it out the first time, you're going to tell them they're stupid and dumb and they weren't good enough and they didn't measure up. No, you want to say, well, how can you want to find new ways so they can learn it. You want to find new ways they can understand it if they didn't get it the first time, so they can grasp these concepts. So we need to do the same thing with ourselves, parent ourselves in a loving way, so to speak. And with that, lovely ladies, I will see you tomorrow unless anyone has any questions. I will share this PowerPoint as well. By the 4th day, I'm also going to share some more notes, some more reading material. I won't give it till the 4th day so that it's easy, so that you won't be reading things that you might not, we haven't gotten to yet. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. I am recording the sessions and I'll be able to share them. I did not record the first session, but I'm going to record another one that I'm going to be doing with another group tomorrow so that you can have that as well and come back to that. So all the sessions will be recorded for later usage as well. So I thank you all for being here, for participating, for showing up. It's always an honor, and I learn as much from you as I hope you are gaining in these sessions. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Stay safe, ladies. And happy International Women's Day. Again, well deserved.
Thank you. The same to you, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, and the same to you as well.
Welcome. Bye-bye.